First Contact Initiative. Admiral Kenna Reeves stood at the viewport of the ES of Prometheus, watching the approaching Galactic Council delegation with carefully hidden amusement. The massive crystalline ships of the Arthean species moved with perfect geometric precision, their formations calculated to the microsecond. Everything about them screamed order, protocol, and most importantly, control. "They're hailing us again," Lieutenant Park announced from his communications station. "The High Arbiter is expressing concerns about our proximity to the void boundary." "I'm sure they are," Kenna replied, straightening her uniform. "Open the channel." The holographic form of High Arbiter, Axthal, materialized in the center of the bridge, its crystalline body refracting light in complex patterns that indicated agitation. "Admiral Reeves, you continue to disregard our warnings. The void boundary is not a matter for human exploration. Your species is too young to comprehend the dangers." Kenna maintained her diplomatic smile. "With respect, High Arbiter, we've detected unusual energy signatures beyond the boundary. Energy signatures that match nothing in the database you provided us. That database contains all known phenomena in the charted galaxy." Axthal's crystal facets flickered with what passed for irritation among the Arthean. "If you detect anything different, it is surely an error in your primitive scanning technology." Behind Kenna, several bridge officers stiffened at the insult, but she raised a hand slightly, maintaining calm. "Perhaps you'd like to examine our readings yourself. We've prepared a detailed report." "Unnecessary," Axthal interrupted. "The boundary was established by the first ones themselves. It is absolute. Your presence here violates 17 different council protocols. Return to your designated expansion zone immediately." The transmission cut off before Kenna could respond. She allowed herself a small sigh before turning to her science officer. "Commander Rivera, what's the status of the probe?" "Successfully deployed during their approach, Admiral. They were so focused on our ship's position they didn't detect the launch. Receiving initial telemetry now." Kenna moved to the science station, examining the incoming data. The probe had been their most sophisticated yet, designed specifically to penetrate the strange barrier that marked the edge of Council space. What they found on the other side had justified every broken protocol, every risk taken. "Energy patterns are consistent with our previous scans," Rivera reported, his dark eyes intent on the readings. "But there's something else, some kind of temporal distortion. The barrier isn't just a boundary, it's containing something. Or protecting something," Kenna mused. The Council's insistence on keeping humanity away from this region had always seemed excessive, even for their bureaucratic standards. Now they were beginning to understand why. A sudden alarm blared through the bridge. Multiple ships emerging from the barrier. Lieutenant Park shouted. "Configuration unknown. Energy signatures massive." The viewport filled with impossible geometries as vast shapes emerged from the darkness. They moved with a purpose that sent chills down Kenna's spine. These weren't random phenomena or natural formations. They were ships, ancient ships, bearing technology that made the Council's finest vessels look primitive in comparison. "Get that probe back now," Kenna ordered, already moving toward her command chair, "and prepare to transmit all data to Fleet Command. The Council isn't trying to protect us from the void." "Admiral," Rivera's voice was tight with concern. "The unknown vessels, they're heading directly for Council space, and according to these readings, they're just the advanced scouts. There are hundreds more behind them." Kenna watched as the crystalline ships of the Arthean delegation began to scatter in panic. The Council had spent so long maintaining their perfect order, their carefully controlled advancement of technology, that they'd forgotten why those restrictions were put in place to begin with. They'd forgotten what lurked beyond the boundary. But humanity hadn't forgotten how to fight. They hadn't forgotten how to adapt, to innovate, to break the rules when survival demanded it. The Council had warned everyone about humanity's dangerous tendency to ignore protocols and push boundaries. They were about to discover why those very traits might be the galaxy's only hope for survival. "Battle stations," Kenna commanded, her voice carrying throughout the ship. and get me a direct line to Earth Command. I don't care what protocols we have to break. The Council needs to know that their perfect barrier is about to fail, and we need to be ready when it does. When it does. The Prometheus's engines flared to life as humanity prepared to do what it did best, face the impossible head-on, with ingenuity, courage, and a complete disregard for what they were supposed to be capable of. The galaxy had warned everyone about humans, but sometimes the most dangerous species is exactly what you need to face an even greater threat: the quantum breach. 3 weeks after the barrier breach, the Galactic Council's emergency session descended into chaos. Holographic representatives from 1,000 species shouted over each other, while High Arbiter Exthal struggled to maintain order. In the center of the chamber, Admiral Kenna Reeves stood calmly beside her unlikely ally, Professor Raj Patel, Earth's leading expert on quantum mechanics. The humans have violated our most sacred laws. The delegate from the Myriad Collective, a gaseous being of swirling colors, pulsed with outrage. They experimented with forbidden technology, and in doing so, Kenna countered, her voice cutting through the din. We discovered what your precious laws were hiding. The precursor ships aren't just attacking, they're harvesting. Each world they touch is stripped of all quantum potential, leaving behind nothing but empty probability shells. Professor Patel stepped forward, activating a holographic display. We've analyzed the attack patterns. The precursors aren't random invaders, they're systematic harvesters of possibility itself. They consume what could be to fuel what they want to be. The chamber fell silent as images of devastated worlds appeared, planets that hadn't just been destroyed, but somehow reduced to singular, fixed states. All quantum uncertainty erased, leaving them locked in one unchangeable configuration. Impossible. Exthal's crystalline form vibrated with denial. The first ones assured us their containment protocols would hold for millennia more. The first ones underestimated the precursor's ability to adapt. Professor Patel explained, his hands moving through the holographic data. Just as you underestimated humanity's ability to innovate, we've developed countermeasures. The declaration sent fresh waves of shock through the chamber. Kenna activated her own display, showing the experimental facility humanity had built in secret, deep within the asteroid belt of their home system. Project Uncertainty, she announced. While you were forcing every species to develop technology in careful, predictable steps, we were learning to think differently. The quantum drives you banned, we refined them. The probability matrices you outlawed, we perfected them. Because you never understood the underlying principles. The Myriad Collective representative swirled agitatedly. You simply stumbled upon advanced technology through reckless experimentation. Professor Patel smiled. No, because we understood something you forgot. The power of theoretical imagination. Your species developed technology like climbing a ladder, one rung at a time. Humans, we look at the ladder and ask why we can't build an elevator instead. The holographic display shifted, showing the first successful test of humanity's defense system. A precursor ship, caught in a web of artificially generated quantum states, its ability to harvest possibility suddenly turned against it. The precursors feed on quantum potential, Kenna explained. So we've developed weapons that overwhelm them with it. Instead of following your restricted development paths, we combine technologies in ways you never imagined, ways you were too afraid to try. And in doing so, Exthal's voice carried traces of fear. You may have doomed us all. The precursors will sense this technology. They will come for Earth next. They're already coming, Professor Patel confirmed. We detected their fleet changing course 12 hours ago. But that's exactly what we've been preparing for. Kenna faced the Council directly now, her expression resolute. We're not asking for permission. We're not asking for approval. We're telling you that humanity has developed weapons capable of fighting the precursors. You can either help us deploy them throughout the galaxy, or you can watch as we do it anyway. You would break every protocol, ignore every warning. Exthal demanded. To save lives. To protect the galaxy. Yes. Kenna's voice hardened. Your protocols were meant to prevent the rise of another species like the precursors. Instead, they nearly guaranteed our extinction by stifling the innovation we needed to fight them. Professor Patel manipulated the display one final time, showing the network of quantum defense platforms humanity proposed. We can protect your worlds, but only if you let us ignore everything you've taught about proper technological development. The choice is yours. The council chamber erupted in debate once more, but Kenna could see the shift in the room. Fear of humanity's unconventional methods was being replaced by a greater fear, the approaching precursor fleet. They'll agree, Professor Patel said quietly. They have to. The real question is whether they'll do it in time. Kenna watched the quantum probability matrices swirling in the display, representing humanity's greatest achievement and, potentially, their greatest risk. They had warned the galaxy about humanity's dangerous tendencies, but they never understood that sometimes the most dangerous solution is the only one that works. Send word to Admiral Zhou, she ordered her comm officer. Tell her to begin Phase 2. We're not waiting for the Council's permission to save them. The quantum breach had begun, and with it, humanity's greatest gamble. The galaxy was about to learn why breaking the rules wasn't just humanity's weakness. It was their greatest strength. Emergence Protocol. The quantum defense platform, Prometheus 7, hung in space like a twisted mathematical equation made real. Admiral Zhou Lin watched from the command deck as her engineers made final adjustments to the impossible device. Unlike the clean lines of Council technology, humanity's creation was a maze of intersecting probability fields and quantum matrices that seemed to hurt the eyes if viewed too directly. Status report, she commanded, hands clasped behind her back. Chief Engineer Rashid answered while manipulating a holographic control panel that displayed equations instead of standard controls. The quantum field is stable, Admiral. Though stable might be the wrong word when we're deliberately generating controlled chaos. Controlled chaos, Zhou mused, an apt description of humanity's entire defense strategy. The bridge crew worked with focused intensity, monitoring systems that the Council had declared too dangerous to even theorize about. They had done more than theorize. They had built them, tested them, and now prepared to use them against an enemy that consumed possibility itself. Multiple contacts. The sensor officer's voice cut through the tension. Precursor vessels emerging from quantum space. Count. 15 capital ships. Configuration matches the Planet Killer class. Zhao's expression remained calm, but her hands tightened slightly behind her back. Begin emergence protocol. Let's show them why the Council was right to fear human innovation. The quantum defense platform hummed to life, its impossible geometries beginning to spin and shift. Around it, space itself seemed to ripple as probability fields began to overlap and intersect. First wave approaching, Rashid reported. They're not slowing down. They don't recognize the threat. Why would they? Zhao allowed herself a grim smile. We built something that shouldn't exist, something that breaks all their rules about how technology should develop. Launched the probability mines. Dozens of small devices detached from Prometheus 7, each one containing technology that violated at least 6 Council protocols. As they spread out in a carefully calculated pattern, the approaching precursor ships finally began to show signs of confusion. They're scanning us, the sensor officer announced. Their harvest fields are activating. Wait, energy readings are fluctuating. They can't get a lock on our quantum signature. Zhao nodded. This was what they had hoped for, what all their simulations had predicted. The precursors fed by consuming quantum possibilities, reducing everything to a single fixed state. But humanity had created weapons that existed in multiple states simultaneously, overwhelming the precursors' ability to process them. Probability mines reaching activation range, Rashid called out. Quantum cascade in 3, 2, 1. The space between the defense platform and the precursor fleet erupted in a display that defied description. Each mind detonated in multiple quantum states simultaneously, creating a web of overlapping possibilities that trapped the massive ships in a maze of their own attempted computations. Direct hit on 3 vessels, the tactical officer reported with barely contained excitement. They're trying to process all possible states at once. Their systems are overloading. Joe watched as the first precursor ship began to break apart, its impossible geometry unable to maintain coherence in the face of too many simultaneous possibilities. Launch second wave. Target their probability harvesters specifically. More mines deployed, their detonations creating patterns of quantum chaos that the precursors couldn't consume fast enough. 2 more ships began to disintegrate, their attempts to harvest possibility backfiring catastrophically. Admiral. The sensor officer's voice carried a note of warning. The remaining ships are adapting. They're changing their quantum signature. Zhao had expected this. The precursors hadn't survived this long by being predictable. Initiate Protocol Omega. Show them that humans don't just break rules. We rewrite them. Prometheus 7's core began to pulse with energy as it implemented humanity's most dangerous innovation yet. The quantum fields around the platform didn't just create multiple possibilities. They began to generate new rules for how probability itself worked. My God, Rashid whispered, watching his readings. We're not just giving them too many possibilities to process. We're changing what's possible. The remaining precursor ships began to falter as reality itself seemed to shift around them. Their technology, based on harvesting quantum probability, couldn't function in a space where the fundamental rules of probability were being rewritten moment by moment. This is Admiral Joe to all ships, she broadcast. Emergence protocol successful. The defense platform concept is confirmed. Transmit all data to Earth Command and prepare for full deployment. As the last precursor ships retreated, their mighty harvest fields useless against humanity's quantum chaos, Joe allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The Council had warned everyone about humanity's dangerous tendency to ignore established rules. They never understood that breaking rules wasn't just about defiance. It was about finding new solutions when the old ones failed. Send word to Admiral Reeves, she ordered. Tell her the quantum defense platforms work better than we hoped. And tell the Council, tell them this is just the beginning of what humanity can do when we stop following their rules and start making our own. The battle was won, but Ju knew this was only the start. The precursors would adapt, would try new tactics. But now, finally, they faced an enemy that could adapt faster, think differently, and break any rule necessary to survive. The galaxy had feared humanity's chaos. Now that same chaos might be their only hope for survival. Alliance of necessity. Deep within the converted asteroid that now served as Quantum Research Station Alpha, High Arbiter Angsthel's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained anxiety. The Arthean leader watched as human scientists worked alongside representatives from a dozen council species, all of them breaking countless protocols with every passing moment. Your quantum manipulations violate fundamental laws of reality, Angstfel observed, addressing Professor Isabella Romano, the station's lead researcher. Reality, Isabella replied without looking up from her work, is more flexible than your laws suggested. Her hands moved through holographic displays, showing probability matrices that shouldn't have been possible. The precursors proved that when they started consuming quantum potential, we're just proving it can be used defensively. The station shuddered slightly as another test fired in the deep labs. Around them, teams of humans worked seamlessly with alien scientists, their previous rivalries forgotten in the face of necessity. Even the Myriad Collective, usually so opposed to human methods, had contributed their gaseous experts to the project. 3 more precursor fleets detected, announced Commander Jason Park from his monitoring station. They're adapting to our initial quantum defense platforms, creating new harvesting patterns we haven't seen before. Isabella nodded as if she'd expected this. They would. That's why we're not just building better weapons, We're changing how we think about quantum mechanics itself. She gestured to a massive device taking shape in the station's central chamber. The probability forge isn't just a weapon. It's a tool for rewriting local spacetime. Impossible, one of the Arthean scientists chimed in. The energy requirements alone would be impossible using conventional methods, Isabella agreed. But we're not using conventional methods. We're using these. She activated a display showing devices that made Anxithal's crystalline structure resonate with recognition. Those are First One artifacts. The Council forbade their study. The Council forbade a lot of things, Commander Park noted dryly. That didn't work out so well when the precursors showed up, did it? Before Anxithal could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Multiple quantum breaches detected, Park announced. They're trying a new approach, targeting our causality anchors. Isabella's hands flew over her controls. They're learning faster than we anticipated. Initiating Emergency Protocol Delta. All non-essential personnel to safety zones. The station's lights shifted to deep red as reality itself seemed to flutter around them. Through the observation windows, space appeared to fold in impossible ways as precursor ships larger than anything they'd encountered before emerged from quantum space. They're not just harvesting possibility anymore, Isabella explained, her voice tight with concentration as she worked. They're trying to sever our connection to cause and effect itself. If they succeed, we'll exist in all possible states simultaneously, perfect fuel for their harvesting. Anxithal watched in horror as the massive ships began to implement their new strategy. This is why the first ones created the barrier. The precursors don't just consume, they evolve, they learn. So do we, Commander Park responded. He turned to Isabella. Doctor, I think it's time we showed them our latest project. Isabella nodded grimly, initiating probability forge primary sequence. All personnel, prepare for quantum fluctuation. The massive device in the central chamber began to pulse with energy that defied description. It didn't just bend light. It bent possibility itself. Around it, human and alien scientists worked in perfect synchronization, their differences forgotten in the face of extinction. What you're attempting, Anxithal began, breaks every known law of physics. Exactly, Isabella smiled, though her eyes remained focused on her work. The precursors expect us to play by the rules, even their twisted versions of them. Instead, we're going to show them what happens when humanity and the Council species stop fighting each other and start breaking rules together. The probability forge reached full power, and reality around the station began to change in fundamental ways. The approaching precursor ships suddenly found themselves in a space where their basic assumptions about how universe worked no longer applied. This is why we needed your help, Commander Park explained to Anxithal as they watched the massive ships begin to falter. Humans can break the rules, yes, but your species understand those rules at a fundamental level we're still grasping. Together, we're not just breaking physics, we're rewriting it. The precursor vessels began to retreat, their new harvesting strategy useless in a space where causality itself had been rewritten. But Isabella's expression remained grim. They'll adapt again, she warned. Each encounter teaches them more about how we think, how we fight. Then we'll keep changing how we think, Commander Park responded. Keep combining human innovation with Council knowledge in ways they can't predict. Anxithal watched as human and alien scientists began analyzing data from the encounter, already working on improvements to their impossible technology. The Council had warned everyone about humanity's dangerous tendencies, their reckless innovation. They never imagined those same tendencies would become the foundation of the galaxy's survival. The Council will want to regulate this technology, Anxithal noted. Create new protocols for its development. Isabella finally looked up from her work, meeting the High Arbiter's gaze directly. With respect, High Arbiter, the time for protocols is over. Either we break all the rules together, or the precursors break us apart. The choice, Anxithal realized, had already been made. The galaxy had feared humanity's chaos. Now they would learn to embrace it, or cease to exist entirely. Evolution's edge. The combined fleet of human and council ships hung in formation around Earth, a last line of defense against the largest precursor armada ever detected. Admiral Keanu Reeves stood on the bridge of the ESS Prometheus, now upgraded with technology that would have been deemed impossible just months ago. All probability forges report ready, Lieutenant Commander Rashid announced from his station, coordinating with ships from 24 different species. Quantum field generators at maximum capacity. Professor Romano's voice came through the command channel from Research Station Alpha. Admiral, the precursors have evolved beyond our previous countermeasures. They're not just harvesting probability anymore. They're trying to become probability itself. Then we'll have to evolve faster, Kenna replied, watching as the massive precursor ships began their approach. Their forms had changed, becoming even more abstract, more fundamentally wrong to human perception. High Arbiter Angsthol's crystalline form shimmered on the bridge, their presence a symbol of how desperate times had forced unprecedented cooperation. The combined council fleets await your command, Admiral Reeves. We trust in humanity's approach. Those words would have been unthinkable months ago, but the precursors had forced the galaxy to change, to adapt, to embrace humanity's chaos in order to survive. Multiple quantum breaches detected. Park's voice cut through the tension. They're everywhere at once. The void erupted with precursor ships, but they weren't just emerging from quantum space. They were quantum space, having evolved to exist as living probability fields. Traditional weapons passed right through them, hitting nothing because they existed in all possible states simultaneously. Initiate Protocol Omega Final, Kenna ordered. Professor Romano, you have control. From Research Station Alpha, Isabella Romano activated humanity's ultimate gambit. Every probability forge in the combined fleet activated simultaneously, not fighting against the precursor's probability manipulation, but adding to it. What are you doing? Angstthal demanded, their crystalline form vibrating with alarm. You're increasing quantum uncertainty. Exactly. Isabella's voice was tight with concentration. The precursors evolved to become living probability. So we're going to give them more probability than even they can handle. The space between the fleets began to shimmer as layer upon layer of quantum possibility built upon itself. The precursor ships tried to harvest it, tried to consume the excess probability, but there was too much, too fast. They're trying to adapt, Park reported. Their forms are shifting. Push harder, Kenna ordered. All ships, full power to your forges. Show them what happens when the galaxy stops following rules and starts breaking them together. The combined fleet's probability forges poured more and more quantum uncertainty into space. The precursors, evolved to exist in all possible states, found themselves drowning in possibility itself. Their forms began to fluctuate wildly as they lost control of their own nature. It's working, Isabella announced. They can't maintain quantum coherence. There. The first precursor ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, overwhelmed by too many possibilities to maintain any form at all. Others followed, their attempt to become living probability backfiring as humanity, and their allies forced them to face infinite possibility all at once. Devastating, Angstthal observed, their tone mixing horror and admiration. You didn't just break the rules of physics. You broke the rules of evolution itself. That's humanity's gift to the galaxy, Kenna replied, watching as the remaining precursor ships began to retreat. Their ultimate evolution proved to be their ultimate weakness. We don't just break rules. We show you why some rules need to be broken. The combined fleet held position as the last precursor ships vanished, not through quantum space this time, but through conventional flight. Their ability to manipulate probability burned out by humanity's impossible strategy. All ships report, Kenna ordered. Damage assessment. And she trailed off as new readings appeared on her display. The massive quantum probability field they had generated wasn't dissipating. Instead, it was stabilizing, taking on a form of its own. "Professor Romano," she called. "Are you seeing this?" "Yes," Isabella's voice held wonder. "The field. It's becoming self-sustaining. We didn't just overload the precursors. We created something new. A space where probability itself follows different rules. A natural defense against any future attempts to harvest quantum potential." "Impossible," Axel whispered, but the word held no conviction now. They had all learned that impossible was just another rule waiting to be broken. "Send word to Earth Command," Kenna ordered. "The precursor threat is neutralized. And tell the Council. Tell them it's time for new protocols. Ones that don't just allow for innovation, but encourage it." As the combined fleet began recovery operations, Kenna watched the shimmering quantum field that now protected Earth's space. The galaxy had warned everyone about humanity's dangerous tendencies, their reckless disregard for established rules. They never imagined those same tendencies would create a new form of physics, a new way of existing that would protect all species from threats they couldn't even imagine yet. The price of underestimating humanity hadn't just been embarrassment. It had been the loss of countless opportunities to evolve, to grow, to become something more than the sum of their rules and protocols. That was about to change. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous species is exactly what you need to survive in a universe that doesn't play by the rules. "Admiral," Park called out, "the Council is requesting an immediate conference to discuss the implementation of the new defense field." Kenna smiled. "Tell them we'll be happy to discuss it, right after we finish breaking a few more rules. After all, that's what humans do best." The stars seemed to shine brighter through the quantum field, each one representing not just possibility, but the potential for change, for growth, for evolution beyond the bounds of what anyone thought possible. The galaxy had warned them about humans. Now they would learn from them instead.